Um, just wanted to welcome you all again. Thank you, Sonia. My name's Clare Quinton. I started with BTL just over 2 years ago now. I started as project manager, mainly brought in to help set up the Test Centre Network for our customers and mainly RCPCH. Since then, I've moved into looking after the Test Centre Network operation itself, so I manage that on a day-to-day basis. Now, probably are mostly aware, BTL typically provides the software that our customers set up their examinations on, and they typically ran those examinations or tests in their own centre network or in their own centres. Increasingly, we were being approached by customers who wanted us to manage that centre network or provide some kind of network for them because they didn't want to run it themselves and they didn't have an existing relationship with a centre network provider already. And that's where we came in, specifically for RCPCH, who we were providing Surpass to, and they were looking for a provider to do everything in one, and that's where we came in. Now, we're a global network and we provide very much a personalised service. So you will work with us on a one-to-one basis so that we can meet all your requirements. We can adjust all our processes and everything around whatever it is that your company specifically needs. Obviously, we have our standard offering, which we can roll out very quickly, and then beyond that, we can work with individual customers to build up to their requirements. We have test centres across the globe, spanning the whole of the UK and pretty much the whole globe now. Any centres that we don't have currently, we have a relationship with our suppliers whereby we can go out and source those centres. It's very much personal and flexible service. We manage all the test centres for you. We help you plan the areas that you're going to deliver in. So if you need to review numbers from previous years and decide on centres that you want next year, that's something that we'll work with you to do. We run session-based high-stakes exams currently for RCPCH and are set up for session-based exams in all our centres. Excuse me. We provide full invigilation service for all of our customers. Our typical standard is one invigilator for every single room and a minimum of one invigilator for 24 candidates. So if you've got more than 24 in a room, then we'll provide additional invigilators. In every case, we always have other trained invigilators on site as a backup. So if there's an invigilator that's ill or there's any incident that happens, they've got somebody else that will stand in for them. And we provide a secure environment for the candidates to sit their exams, and that not only spans from the ID check-in when the candidates arrive to the security features such as separation panels for all the desks, but it also increases to helping you set up your tests in a secure manner, us being able to give you advice on how to minimise the chances of cheating amongst your candidates. And we have a set standard for our centres, so you can rest assured that when we provide you a centre, it will be to our specific standards, and that you know we've done everything we can to make sure that that centre is suitable for your needs and your candidates' needs. Now, how do we ensure the centre and staff standards? Now, we've spent the last 2 years setting up quite a rigorous process so that we can ensure all the centres and all the staff that are in those centres are up to our standards. When we first approach a test centre to become part of our network, or if they approach us, which we have had happen, we will send out an information sheet to them. It's more like several sheets. But they read through that. That means that they know exactly what we expect of them, they know what we deliver, and they know the standards they have to meet. At the end of that information, they have an informational sheet that they have to fill in for us. We capture data such as their address, obviously, their main contact details for the running of the centre, their technical contact details, any emergency contact details, number of rooms, number of seats, all those kinds of pieces of information. And at that point, they also have our minimum standards checklist, so they will go through and let us know whether they meet all of those or not. Some are mandatory and some are ones that we prefer for our higher quality centres. When we receive that information back, we ask them to provide photos, so the outside of the room, the outside of the exam centre, the reception area, the canteen and the break area, the test room itself, and the invigilation station, so that we can see if that centre is likely to meet our standards. Now, given some of these centres obviously are overseas, we need to see that before we go to the expense of further auditing or checking that centre. So once we're happy that those photos look like the centre's going to be suitable for us, then we'll move on to the next stage of the process. Oh, and a testing station. Once we've done that and we're happy that that centre is likely to be suitable for us, we'll move on to the physical audit of the centres. Now, in the UK, one of our Test Centre Network team will do that audit ourselves. So I'll go out and audit, or Sonia goes out and audits, and other team members will go out and audit the centre personally. And that just gives us the opportunity to go and see the centre, meet the staff, and check that all their facilities are exactly how we expect them to be, and work with the centre to increase the standard or to fix any issues that we see that are there. Now, in our overseas centres, obviously we'd love to go to Dubai or Hong Kong, or some of the nicer areas over there, but it's not really feasible for us to go out. So what we did is we've sourced a partner who does our audits overseas. They do quite a lot of audits for other awarding organisations. They do secret shoppers, they do physical audits, they do all sorts of audits. So what we did to make sure they were up to our standard is we sent somebody out to audit the Abu Dhabi and the Hong Kong centres, but we didn't tell them we'd done that, and then we sent them along to do the audit as well. And we compared those audits just to make sure that we were happy with their standard of auditing. Now, once all the issues, if there are any, have been resolved from the facilities audit, we then move on to what we call the technical checking of every centre. We have to be confident that the centre we're providing with our customers with has the technical capabilities to run our exams for the candidates, and that the experience they're going to have is good. As a result of that, we decided we wanted to check every single PC that was going to be used for a candidate exam, including the invigilation station and any others that they used for backup. We create a very short 2-question test, and we schedule that for every single PC that's going to be used for a candidate. So if a centre has 22 PCs, we schedule 22 tests for that centre. They go round, they download Secure Client on each of those machines, and they run that 2-question test. Once they've done that, we run a diagnostic report back at BTL, and that will highlight any issues that we have with their technical standards. 9 times out of 10, we'll have no issues at all. The majority of the smaller issues we have tend to be requirements for updates of Flash Player and things like that. So it's very rare we come across computers that are substandard. Once the technical check is done and we're happy that the centre is up to standard, we then have to move on to making sure that the staff are up to standard. And as part of that, we provide them with all our documentation. We have a centre preparation checklist, which starts from 2 weeks ahead of any exams. And that just asks them to create seating plans. It asks them to let us know that they've got their staff in place and all the other things that we expect to happen in advance of an exam, including the advanced download. Once they've got all of that documentation, they also have the invigilation guide and the support guide, and we also provide them a training presentation which goes into detail and provides a video on how to use the system to the minimal capacity that they have as invigilators. Once they've been through all of that, we schedule them a 20-minute, I think it lasts, test, and they have to obtain a 20% pass on that for us to consider them suitable to run our tests. Not 20%, sorry, 70%. It's 20 minutes, 70%. If they fail that test, they have 2 further opportunities to sit it. Once they fail 3 times, which we have had on 1 occasion, then we consider that they aren't suitable to invigilate our exams, and the centre provides an alternative member of staff. Once they've passed, they get their nice certificate, and we keep a record on our system so that we know which staff are suitable to run our tests on the day and to invigilate and help the candidates. The centre preparation guides, which I mentioned before, we considered this a really important part of the centre provision. We wanted to make sure that the centres were all prepared for exam day because, as I'm sure you'll realise, some of the more remote locations out overseas have very poor internet connection and sometimes there's next to nothing. And we have occasions where the internet will go down an entire country for a week or 2 weeks. So what we wanted to do is just make sure that we had a contingency in place so that all those centres would be able to run the exams regardless of whether their internet went down on the day. And that's when we started the centre preparation guide. As part of that, any centre that hasn't run exams in the last 3 months will have to redo their technical tests so that we know that their computers are still up to scratch and they haven't changed anything. They will also have to download all the live exams onto each PC and keep a note of which key code is on each PC so that the specific candidate that has that key code will sit at that PC. So if the internet drops or for any issues they have with the internet, we'll sometimes advise them to unplug it, which makes the candidate experience that much better because it's not trying to get a connection. If the candidate sits at that machine that their test has been downloaded on, then they can sit that exam regardless of any internet connection, and we can be confident that all exams will be delivered on the day. The invigilation guide and the support guide we provide just gives them further instruction on how to invigilate the exams on the day, details of any specific requirements that customers have, for instance, latecomer rules and cheating rules and all those kinds of things. And it also gives them details of how to deal with any issues with internet or with any issues that they have with a particular PC and how to cope with that. It also gives them details of our support desk so that they can contact us immediately if they have any issues. Now, we work with several partners as part of our delivery. Pitman Training are a large training and testing organisation in the UK, probably the most widespread, I think, from our reviews. A lot of their centres started off just delivering training. They have slowly built up to having extra test rooms and separating their training rooms so that they're available to run tests as well in those. They provide the majority of our UK centres and a small portion of our overseas, although their overseas offering is growing. Clifton's is one of our overseas providers. They only provide one of our UK centres. And again, typically they were quite a large global training provider, concentrated quite a lot in Australia and America. They moved into providing testing rooms when they saw the opportunity in the marketplace, and it's something that they're increasingly doing. There's not many locations that we can't obtain through Clifton's. ITTS is one of our newest partners, just signed on in the last few exam series that we've done for RCPCH. They are specialist training and testing services who set up specifically to deliver high quality testing rooms. They have very similar processes to those that we have and very similar standards, so we know that any of our tests that's going to be run through them have already gone through pretty much the same reviews that we do ourselves. We also use New Horizons, who provide our largest our largest London centre, and I'm also in talks with them at the moment for 2 more large centres in London because they're actually owned by Newham College, so we can access extra college rooms through them. They provide quite a lot of the overseas centres as well. They've got a lot of their own owned centres overseas. And Bear International are the third-party suppliers I mentioned for the audits. They do all of our overseas audits for us.
Claire,
yes?
do you have a list of the destinations that this can be done in? Is there anywhere we can access that?
I do, yes. I'm just about to move on to that. But I can, if you leave me your email address afterwards, I can send a list of our current locations and some of our potential locations, because Clifton's in particular have such a massive range that to write, I think it's about 2,500 locations in addition to the ones we know about. So, okay. Now, the locations of our centres, you can see the blue markers there are all the ones that we run in for RCPCH currently, in 6 diets every year, 6 exam days every year. And that's just a closer up of the London for you. So you can see we've got quite a coverage across the UK of ones that we're actually running at the moment. The ones in red are those that we've either audited already and are ready for use, or they're ones that we know about and we know we can use almost immediately once we've done the audit process. So it'd be a fairly quick turnaround to utilise those. The overseas, again, the ones in blue are the ones that we currently run exams in for RCPCH at the moment. And I'll apologise for the next map being so small, but there were so many to put on. What I've done on here is I've put the New Horizons and I've put the ITTS centres on here. As I mentioned with the Cliftons, there was 2,500, so if I'd have put them all on there, it just would have been a red map. So I thought I would leave those off. But you can see we've got quite a broad spread across the world there. So where are we now? Well, 2 years on from when we started. We've got 86 centres audited globally. That number will go up probably by about another 10 before the end of the year. We've run 12 live sessions over 6 days in the last year for RCPCH. That's 2 exams per day in all of the centres that you saw in blue. And every time we run those sessions, the process is getting slicker and we get less issues raised by the centres because they're familiar with our processes, they're familiar with all the requirements and obviously the system. We have 42 national and 42 international centres used so far in 2015. And again, that number will go up in the coming years as we go forward. And we've run almost 9,000 live exams this year through our Test Centre Network. And I had put up applications have closed for January 2016, but we've just agreed that the application period will extend slightly. It won't affect our process because final numbers don't come through till next week, but it gives the RCPCH candidates a little longer to apply for their exams. So I think most of the centres are full now, and we're looking at a pretty big January exam. And we're working with a number of potential customers at the moment in the hopes that our Test Centre Network will grow even further. Does anyone have any questions?